I want Hilary Swank in the next Terminator movie so bad.
There is nothing in this world that you give me to do to hug a robot.
It's because it's so incredible and intricate that it's impossible not to notice.
Music's the core of this movie.
I was born again to watch this movie.
You'll find redeeming things and you'll be thinking about it for a long time afterwards.
There was no bone saw.
Just John hamming it up over here.
2.5 out of 3 of us recommend it.
Everybody loves talking about movies. Let's talk about movies.
Welcome to the Pause, Rewind, Play podcast. Vince, what are we watching tonight? He's not even going to stop. How long can you keep this up for? That's the best part is I'm pretty sure that you could keep this up for longer than I know.
Here's the thing. When I watch a Terminator movie, that theme song is stuck in my head for the rest of the week. I'll just be sitting there at work, like working on something, typing away, and all of a sudden, I just catch myself. Oh, shoot, sorry.
Just like actually humming out loud. Well, because I love how much we just love music and movies and how iconic it can be. Like today, I got super excited because I was driving up to work and I was listening to Spotify like on shuffle, but then there was sort of like a lull in between songs, and so I don't know, my brain was probably just tuned out of the music, and so I probably forgot I was listening. And then if you know like time from Inception, it begins like very quietly and just like building up, but then I started hearing that, and since it's so quiet and it starts building up, I thought it was like someone, like, because it was really slow traffic, right? I thought it was someone like next to me or something listening to it really loud. I started looking around like really excited, like, yo, who's listening to Time from Inception? Like, oh wait, that's me.
It was me the whole time. Surprise.
Casey.
You can welcome us to the podcast now.
We're sorry.
I was thinking of something.
No, just kidding.
I was thinking of something clever to add in there, but I got nothing. My brain is mush right now. It's like what I had for breakfast, cream of wheat. It just looks the same.
You got that post-time travel brain.
Yeah, I went to the future, came back to the past.
I'm from the future.
Yeah, well, the reason we skipped a little while, guys, welcome to the podcast, by the way. I was gone to Amsterdam for a few days with my wife. It was a freaking amazing time. Yeah, go to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Go not just Amsterdam, though. Go to all of the Netherlands. We did a quick trip and saw literally a third of the country during that time. Maybe even half the country, I would say.
So cool.
It's small enough to fit in the state of Utah, but it's big enough culture-wise that you'll never feel like you're in the same country, but you'll always feel welcome. And it was the first place ever that people have thought I just looked like and fit into the locals and kept speaking Dutch to me. So to all you Dutch folks out there listening to our podcast, thank you for welcoming me to your country, and thank you for thinking of me as one of your kinsfolk. It was
so
excellent.
cool, man. What an excuse not to be here.
Yeah. Not quite as cool as Puerto Rico with the sun.
I don't know. I love Puerto Rico. It is my other home, but I've never been to Amsterdam, so I've never been to Europe.
I think we should go. I've been watching flights already, and I saw some pretty good deals. I put up... So this is what I do. If anyone wants to know, obviously this is not a flights podcast. What's it called? Cheat... What's that called?
Cheat the system.
Not cheat the system. It's like hacks, like flight hacks. That's the right thing. It's not a flight hacks podcast. But let me tell you, just go on Google, go on Kayak, go on every single flight tracking system there is, and just on each of those, put in your desired destinations. Because then you get 6 emails every day. You can look and see which one looks the best, and then you can track it.
And next thing you know, you're in Amsterdam.
Next thing you know, you're in Amsterdam for $293 per person round trip.
Hot tips.
Yep, hot tips.
Holy shoot,
That
really?
sounds... Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. I could barely get to Miami probably for that much.
That's awesome.
That's how crazy it was. Like, literally the most expensive part of this trip was where we stayed. And it was exactly the same amount as a ticket and a half.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was good deal.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I
Applause
just want
for
to
Casey.
toot my horn about that. But welcome back to the podcast. We have missed being here, and we're excited to kind of kick off this welcome back episode with one of Vince's all-time favorites.
Yes.
As you can tell, he played a song with his mouth. I don't know if that's the right word. He sang a song.
I used this instrument called my mouth to play a song.
Your boca. But
Yes. We watched. Well, first off, we should probably apologize because I'm pretty sure on the last episode we announced that we were going to do Halloween for our Halloween episode.
Oh yeah,
And
oops.
things got crazy. And
life, man.
you know, Halloween season's busy. And then we had vacations going on, and maybe next Halloween.
Sorry,
Maybe
going
around
back to Amsterdam really fast. I did a haunted ghost tour in Amsterdam.
Ooh, that's good
walking
Halloween.
around the city. What a great time. Speaking of Halloween, that's how I spent my Halloween.
awesome.
All y'all dressed up, and I walked around with a Dutchman telling us stories about jealous men, murdering wives, and also like old disheveled monks
That's
who
the way
haunt
to do it.
cities. So
That's awesome.
That's like a legit Halloween.
it was
Well, I
pretty creepy.
spent it sitting at my house and handing out candy to about a handful of kids is all. So, yay. No, we actually had some friends over. It was a really good time.
That's good.
Yeah.
I spent it, so obviously.
Oh, your costume was good.
Oh, thank you. My wife and I were Hopper and 11 from Stranger
Yeah, so
Things.
cool.
So it was really good. Just like, Spirit Halloween for the win. Just, we got some costumes last day. However, I did realize after the fact that we could have done it a lot cheaper because spoilers, there's no spoilers. This is real life. This is in the movie. Spirit Halloween is not cheap, guys. That stuff is expensive, okay? And I usually don't like to do it, but I just put it off this year, and so I went to like Spirit Halloween literally like October 30th night. And then I found these costumes and I was like, sweet. But then after I got home, I realized, holy crap, my wife like already has the exact same shirt that Max wears in season 3.
Oh.
Because like when they go to the mall, what she ended up wearing was like that sort of like black jumper
Yeah.
that 11 wears. But then also like opposite from her, of course, is her BFF Max. And she's got like the little short, like, they're not called jorts because it's different, but it kind of is, right? Just the jean shorts. And then this like white shirt with red, yellow, and blue like stripes. And I don't know how, but my wife has like that exact shirt. And it's not like she bought it for like some Stranger Things. She just had it for forever, And so she has that. And I was like, crap, we could have done this like a lot cheaper. But
Lessons for next year.
yeah, but it was good. I spent it with her because it's her birthday, actually. Halloween is.
Oh, cool.
So we just did a ton of stuff together. We didn't answer the door for kids, so sorry. It didn't happen very much because we live on like the 3rd floor of an apartment building. But whenever people did come, I probably would have answered the door, but we didn't have any candy. So I was like, sorry, kids.
I feel like the first year Allie and I were married and it was Halloween, we didn't buy candy, but I opened the door a few times.
Casey
But
was
then
always
we went
like,
over
"Wait."
to your parents' house type thing, and Allie's like, "Stop opening the door." I'm like, "But people are knocking."
well, it's like, what are you gonna do? Maybe be like Ron Swanson from that one episode, or the guy that they go to the door of, and he's like, "I got some cookie dough and a thing of toothpaste. So, here you go."
Whatever works.
Anyway, so that's how we spent our Halloweens. Again, sorry that we weren't able to do the Halloween episode, but you have heard on a few of the past episodes our love for it. So be sure to check it out if you haven't already.
And
Let's
then
go.
we'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do it for sure one day. Let's go through really quick what we've been watching. Yeah, Vince.
So to announce finally, I think we've almost announced this episode, like what movie we're doing. I mean, it's in the title of the podcast.
Oh,
So
yeah?
you know what movie we're doing. But tonight we are doing Terminator 2: Judgment Day, probably the best action movie ever created.
According to Vince,
Fight me.
I think we might.
So this ties into what I've been watching lately. I have been watching so much Terminator. I went through the entire series, watched number 1 over again a couple nights ago, watched number 2 twice, once on an airplane and a couple weeks ago, and then once with you guys. And then I watched the rest. Like, I watched them backwards. It was weird. I started with Terminator 3, and then I watched Salvation, and then I went back and watched Terminator 2, and then I watched Terminator 1, and then I watched Terminator 2 again. I'm a
Nice.
fan of Terminator, and give me an excuse to go back and rewatch some of my favorite franchises, and I will take that chance.
is like,
or
ah,
I guess I should say a
yes.
reason. I notice, you guys can notice I said I watched all the Terminator movies, and I left out Genesis because that's a hot pile of.
Did
It's
you
just
watch
a hot
it?
mess, and I do not recognize that as a Terminator movie.
Oh,
It's
so you
just,
didn't watch it.
It's kind of like the Indiana Jones Crystal Skull, It's
Right.
there, but you don't really recognize it as part of the franchise. And I also went and saw Dark Fate. We'll talk about that one later.
Hey, nice. Casey, what about you?
I have been watching Nothing, to be honest with you. I watched a little bit of Queer Eye Goes to Japan or whatever it is with my wife, which I love.
Yeah, it
We've
looks
been
How are they just like drop new seasons of that like every 2 months or something? Because
So-
I swear it's always popping up with new seasons of Queer Eye.
Queer Eye is a phenomenal thing, and it's
I've heard
done.
it's great. I've never watched it. I
it's-
just feel like it's always new coming out.
They are hitting it, and they are nailing everything they need to be doing because they're having the right conversations at the right times. The characters are good, and so they're just putting out as much content as they can while they can ride this wave, to be honest with you. But I would do it myself, personally.
Well, yeah. Well, because Queer Eye, like right now, like, so their first few seasons, they came out while they were fast. It was like at least a little bit spaced apart. But then this last Queer Eye season and then the Queer Eye Goes to Japan kind of were like, what, like 3 months apart, I think?
Yeah, they
I was
were.
gonna
They're
say,
pretty
I
close.
swear they
It
just
might
came
have
out.
been like 2 months or less.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's true.
It's pretty crazy.
But it's good stuff.
I love it. I think everyone should watch Queer Eye. Like, if you want to have a quality experience of laughter, joy, heartwarming, and really have a real conversation in quality TV, freaking watch Queer Eye. Like, I don't care who you are, what creed you're of, just watch it. It's great. That's my thumb down, foot down, whatever you want to call it of the
Not
day.
thumb down,
Thumb up,
Casey.
foot down.
Thumb up, foot down. Yes, there you go. See, I'm having a hard time.
We're here to help. Yeah, we got your back.
But when I was flying, I did watch Avengers Endgame again, and it holds up to the hype, except the freaking airplane smushed down the quality of the film so much that it was like watching an 8-bit film.
Well, that's got to be so different because we watched it like in IMAX.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine the difference between watching Avengers Endgame in IMAX and a seat on the back of someone's chair, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and they kept moving and shaking their head. No, it wasn't bad. But then I also watched an unloved comedy film that Allie and I both thought was a real knee slapper and actually quite the film, called The House, which has Will Smith, Amy Poehler, and just a number of good folks. It's the
that's
one
the
where they
one where
build
they
a
do the
casino
gambling.
in their house, in a house.
Not Will Smith, Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell. Did I say Will Smith?
I think so. I heard Will Smith, whether you said
I
it or not.
probably said Will Smith, but we watched that and I
Yeah, I
loved
saw
it.
that.
Allie laughed through the bulk of the film. She watched it first, then I watched it. I watched Tag again for the 5th time. I think that's such a good film about like friendship and fun. And then
Oh, I
finally,
heard that was so good. I never watched that.
oh,
I
you've
heard
got
it's
to watch it.
amazing.
I think we might own it. I don't know. And then The Long Shot. I don't know if you guys. It's the one with Seth Rogen and is it
Charlize Theron.
Charlize
I watched that on
Theron.
a plane as well a while back. It's good.
It is good. It is funny and it fits the ticket on what you need.
I'm
on
just a
good-
sucker for a Seth Rogen movie. Every once in a while, like when Seth Rogen doesn't come out with something, you know how like
The Seth Rogen blues.
yeah, like you know how like when it's been a while since a Marvel movie comes out, and you're kind of like, I don't want to see a new Marvel movie or something.
Like
I
right
get that.
now?
I get that with Seth Rogen. It's like I haven't heard that goofy laugh in a while. I kind of want to.
I want
man.
to hold on. I want to find Seth Rogen's laugh. Really
What did I
fast.
watch the other day? I watched that one with the McLovin. What's it called?
Super bad.
Super bad. That was so funny, man.
That's like one of his first.
Seth Rogen, Bill Hader, freaking Michael
Michael
C.
Cera, Jonah Hill, Emma Stone.
Dude, you got everyone in that
So
movie. Because I was like, my wife was like, we're going to watch this movie, Super Bad. And I saw Emma Stone, and I was like, whatever. Because it was like her day to like pick like a movie or something to watch. And then we started watching it and just,
Hold on. This is Seth Rogen's laugh. We're
I love it.
I'm sorry. I just had to. I love that laugh.
I love it so much.
Oh man.
yeah. So anyway, I just watched it. People just kept popping up. And I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck is this? This is amazing. So yeah. So that was a while ago.
What
And
else have you been
then
watching?
really only, I've been super busy. So really only what we've been doing for this and Breaking Bad. Because it's
Yeah.
my first time through. It's getting crazy. I'm like just barely into season 4. It's getting intense. So that's me. That's what I've been watching lately. Nothing much, just Breaking Bad, pretty much.
Yeah, you keep talking about Breaking Bad, and I'm about ready to get back in. I'm not gonna
You
lie.
need to finish it. Like, take his. Tell him, Josh. You tell him.
Casey, it's good.
See? See?
No, I feel like that's like really bad because obviously people have always told me forever that Breaking Bad's good, and all that stuff. But I just always keep, like, oh, okay, like I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
And then I think even a couple of times I've like watched the first episode, but I'd already seen it a couple times, and I'm just like, I don't know, you know? But then when I finally did it, like, it's crazy good, and I'm loving it. I'm always looking for, like, a good, solid series to watch. And Breaking Bad's always been there, like, hey, it's me. And I'm just like, I'm going to try this or something else, and it never works. But Breaking Bad has done it.
I feel like it's been like that's a series you have to commit to in a way, and because it surprises you, it draws you in, you get attached to people. It's just like every other series, but I just don't know why this one's harder to watch for me for some reason. I think too, when I first started watching it, my wife wasn't so into the idea of Breaking Bad, and I just didn't finish it. I don't know. I can't blame Allie for everything.
I lost that drive.
But we watched other things. I think I also picked up on Vikings around the same time. So
did you finish that? You've been watching it.
I haven't been watching anything lately. Honestly, like my TV went like.
Yeah. Too busy.
I'm just doing life. Yeah. Anything else we want to add before we get going? Before I try to and can't do it again. My mouth is dry.
I don't think so.
I want to talk about Terminator. Let's talk about Terminator.
You want to talk about Terminator, Vince? Terminator 2, Rise of the Machines?
No.
I'm sorry.
That's a really good try, though. That's Terminator 3.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
You got me confused now.
We're watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Terminator 3 is Rise of the Machines. But, now, hang on.
Yeah, Vince, you got to correct me. What if it's Terminator 2, the Genesis?
Says he's a huge Terminator 3 fan.
Rise of the Plumber.
Okay, I got it right. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Okay. I was right. I got confused there. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, Terminator Salvation, Terminator, the one we don't speak of, Terminator Dark Fate, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. That's what we're doing.
Yes, Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
All right, Vince.
So, you guys got to tell me your experiences first, because Casey, you said you hadn't seen it in a long time, and Josh, you told me you had never seen it, and that was unacceptable to me. We're planning on doing Dark Fate tonight, Terminator Dark Fate.
Yeah.
But as soon as you guys told me that you'd never seen Terminator 1 or Terminator 2, I was like, we're stopping everything, all of our plans. We're doing an episode on Terminator 2 because you can't watch anything. You can't watch anything in the Terminator franchise without knowing that essential story, you know? Let alone you can't watch any other action movie without seeing Terminator 2.
Whoa, that's a bold statement.
All right. Is everyone ready for some fireworks?
Oh, don't you dare.
It was good. It was not that good, though. Like, don't get me wrong. I liked a lot of stuff. When I say I was not that good, it's in reference to the way that you so lovingly speak of it. Okay. It was a very good action movie.
Did I hype it up too much?
Maybe. And that's the thing, is that it wasn't even just like that it was hyped up too much. I like watched that and I was like, that was like a good solid action movie. But it was like nothing that I was like, this like defines action movies for forever, you know? Like I was like, it was a good movie. And there's a lot of stuff that was like, I liked about it because it was like cheesy, corny, like 80s stuff, which I definitely loved. But, you know.
You got to understand, back in the day, we didn't have a lot of options when it came to entertainment. We didn't have this Netflix. We didn't have this Disney Plus. We had a whole lot of reruns, cartoons, and then we had Terminator.
Okay, boomer.
Oh, jeez.
You were the one who started the sentence with "back in the day."
I feel like once you pass your 30s, you're allowed to say that.
Back in my day.
No, but I still, Casey, I want to get to your opinion in a second, but I still hold to the fact that this movie is just like, remember our Dark Knight episode, how much I nerded out on practical effects. Mm-hmm. If you're going to do anything after this podcast, you go and you watch these making of videos on YouTube, because there's a ton of them out there right now. And like there's an entire one, I can't remember what show did it, but they did like a 45-minute long documentary on just the making of Terminator, and they go through all these practical effects and how they did these things, how they created, like, I mean, they crashed a freaking diesel off of a bridge. They ripped the top of it. They flew a helicopter literally under a bridge. Like, they built replicas of the characters. They just, everything is practical. And watching the way they do it and the way that they describe it and seeing how it's done is just, it's so, so cool.
And see, maybe that's part of it, is that even though I understand when it was made, because this movie came out in 1991, right?
Yeah.
even though I understand when it was made and like how amazing those effects were, especially because it was practical, just because of when I was born and what I grew up watching, so much of like what was amazing then has become like just normal now. You know, like seeing like a freaking like semi truck like drive like over a bridge and like land in something, that's like not as big a thing now. Whereas I'm sure like back when it came out, people watching that were just like, what the hell? Like, whoa, like that's crazy, you know? And it was still crazy. But it's like in the world that we live in today, where I've seen like so many action movies, it can just become sort of commonplace.
Just kind of more of that.
And so maybe that's like part of it, is that like I'm watching this movie for the first time in 2019, you know, like 28 years after it came out. And so what was revolutionary then is just like maybe it really did like set the stage for what was going on with action movies moving forward, whereas now it can just seem sort of like commonplace, like, oh, that's cool, that's good.
So that's me as an adult looking at it and being like, look at all these amazing things they did. But me as a child, when I saw this movie, for some reason I have very vivid memories of commercials being in this movie. So this might be another one of those that we had a VHS rip off of when it was shown edited on TV or something that I would watch over and over. I don't remember, but I have vivid memories of commercials being in here. But as a child, when I'm not noticing all those practical effects, like this movie was the thing, you know. Tom Furlong, the guy who plays John Connor, the kid who plays John Connor, you could just, as a 12-year-old kid, you see this kid being this like rebel, you know, going out and doing these things and then hanging out with the Terminator and having all these action scenes, and like you wanted to live in this universe. You wanted to be the hero of the revolution, you know. You could just, I don't know. I think that it may just be a very strong nostalgia thing going on for me, but I mean, it holds up as an adult. Casey, sorry, I want to hear your opinion.
We have talked a lot.
I was just listening, and I was getting an opinion, an educated opinion.
So you've seen this movie
I've watched it before.
But it's been a long time.
And then last night when I watched it, I think I fell asleep like 3 times while we were watching it.
Yeah.
And so I'm really sorry about that.
That was the best. We're sitting there watching the movie, and all of a sudden, Casey like jumps up. What? I think I fell asleep.
Well, Casey just like, he jumped up and he was like, how'd they get out of the hospital?
Well, it's just like when sometimes you're just like, whoa, this happened. No, okay, it was good, right? And it was a good like throwback to some of those like those classic 80s films, 90s films, right? And I was like, muscle men, breaking shit, like jumping cars. Like, this is the Fast and the Furious before the Fast and the Furious, you might say, because it has your big explosions, it has your helicopters, the motorcycles speeding around in lieu of the cars almost. Like, it has all of those elements in it. Big muscular guys fighting each other, and like, I hate to say it, measuring dicks, right? Like, this is literally how I felt this whole thing went. But it was fun. That was the thing about it is. And when you think about practical effects too, like there's like the scene where there's the big nuclear explosion and it like shows like the waves of the explosion, right? That was not easy to put together.
No.
And that's what's kind of cool about this is because the tech is so low, you see a little bit more into the depth of how it was done. Because with the advanced digital tech that we have today, it's just natural. But with this, they have woo, woo, woo. It's like you can see that. I can see in 10 frames per second or whatever it might be. But it was cool. And was it my favorite film of the year? Watching Vince? No. Was this the one episode I really wanted to do? No. But I'm glad that I watched it and I was like, this is a good refresher into the old days.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely liked a lot of it. It was also like really funny, like a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. And like so much of like how John like played with the robot, right? With the T-800, with the Terminator. It was just like, it was really interesting to watch because I'd obviously always, and I'm sure I've even used like hasta la vista, baby, just like knowing that it's from Terminator, but like not even knowing how it came about. And so I thought that was like really funny, just like the kid like teaching him like funny things like to use and stuff. And he's just like using it in these like huge action moments.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, oh, whatever, like dickhead or something. And so
it was really cool too because in Terminator 1, like, the Terminator is everything that they explained the the T-1000 to be in this one. You know, he's the unstoppable killing machine that'll keep on coming no matter what you do. You can't stop it. You always have to run. You can only try to survive, you know, kind of a thing. And then all of a sudden they come back like 10 years later and they're like, no, this time Arnold's going to be a good guy. The T-800's coming back. He's going to help out. And it's just like, I can imagine, I mean, I was too young to really know what was going on. I saw this movie when it was out on TV, but I can imagine like the crowds being like, wait, what? The number one villain in all of cinema for the time, you know, is coming back as a good guy. And it's like, and this movie's going to be a fun action movie instead of kind of this low budget kind of horror sci-fi. It's just like so different, and it worked so well. Like, I will argue, not only is this one of the best action movies of all time, but I would say this is the best sequel ever made.
That is quite the statement.
Well, that is quite the statement, but also like thinking at the same time, I can't like come out and say, no, this is better. Like nothing immediately comes to mind.
I debate the Two Towers.
I mean, it was better than the original, but the Terminator's still better.
Okay. I won't argue with you. I'm too tired to do this anymore. No arguing for me.
Ooh.
No,
Does The Dark Knight count as a sequel or no?
What's the next?
Yeah,
film
I
in the
mean, it
series?
is.
If it counts as a sequel, then I would say
That you
that's
put that
better.
up in the running? You would say that's better.
In the running. I'd say it beat it.
We may have to put a poll up on Twitter or something.
What's the best
sequel ever made?
Ever made, yes.
We can like, yeah, we can either just put that up there, or we can put up a couple of options and see who wins.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 versus the Two Towers versus
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight will win.
I don't know.
Well, okay.
The Dark Knight won our entire Christopher Nolan bracket.
I know, but Terminator 2 wasn't in the running for the Christopher Nolan bracket.
Okay, people out there, I want you to take a moment and pause our podcast. Double click, get off the screen. Go right now to our Instagram handle and comment, which is better? G2? The Two Towers? Or The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight.
Josh says
We'll
The Dark
see.
Knight. Vince says T2. I say The Two Towers. Also, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones should be on there as well.
What?
Oh, he's messing with us. I
I'm
thought he
just
was
messing
serious.
with
Get out of here.
We're not like, Casey, you're not allowed to do any movie
I thought you were talking about
podcast.
Empire Strikes Back, and that one would be up in there running too.
That one should be in the running. Actually, I did watch the Episode 2 on the flight over there as well. I didn't bring that up. I just wanted to see how bad it was, and yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, man.
All right, well, I got some movie info.
Vince, hit us with those fast facts,
All
as
right.
they say on the Office Ladies podcast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Fast and the Furious or something.
No.
All right. So, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, directed by James Cameron, written by James Cameron and William Wisher, was released July 3rd in 1991. The movie, the original Terminator, was made in the early 80s. I can't remember if it was like 83 or 84 or something like that. Mm-hmm. It took them like 7 years to do the sequel, and I wasn't sure why they took them for so long. Number one, when they originally made the movie, The Terminator, they weren't sure if they would actually be able to make a second one, especially because once they finished the original Terminator, they showed it to the heads of the production company, who told them this movie is garbage. It's never going to take. You'll be lucky to get a second week in theaters.
Wow.
He was very wrong. The original Terminator did amazing, made a ton of money. The reason that it took them so long to make it is because they couldn't get the rights. James Cameron couldn't get the rights back from the production company or the financing to make it until 1990. Huh. And they shot it in 1990. Cost them 10 times the amount that the original Terminator. It cost them 10 times the amount that the original Terminator cost to make. And it did so well. It was like the number one R-rated movie, like in the box office for a long, long time. The budget for this one was $102 million, which means that the budget for the original Terminator was like, what, 10 million? Yeah. 10.2. And then they ended up grossing in theaters like $520 million. This is all according to IMDb, so...
Well, I mean, think about it. In like 1991, grossing $500-something million for an R-rated movie?
Yeah.
It's insane.
How much is that in today's dollars?
It's not as much as Joker, but... You know.
Now, which has it passed the billion mark?
No,
the Joker yet?
it passed 900 million not too long ago.
That movie just won't stop.
I'm just hoping, man, that it hits $1 billion. Could you imagine? That'd
I
be so
know.
great. Like an R-rated movie hitting
It
$1
is
billion.
the most successful R-rated movie now, right?
Yeah, it passed Deadpool.
That's crazy.
A while ago. Well,
Who
because
would've thought?
Deadpool was like 600 or 700, right?
Yeah.
Or
Cow.
maybe even higher, but still though, and it's like still churning. Like I have been trying to find time lately to go watch it again because I really, really want to. Yeah,
That's so crazy.
Maybe we should go on a Tuesday.
yeah. I gotta watch Dark Fate
Yeah.
though too.
We do. You do.
So
Because I really want to know what you guys have to think.
Okay.
What I have to say about it. So the Rotten Tomatoes score, the critics gave it a 93%. Audience score is a 94%. And IMDb gave it an 8.5.
Wow.
The movie, when it was released, had 6 Oscar nominations. And
Wow.
it won 4 of them.
which one?
So it was nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Film Editing, which it did not win. And then it won Best Makeup and Hairstyle, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing, and Best Visual Effects.
So basically all like the action movie ones,
Yeah.
the ones that like even like Avengers and stuff win nowadays.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, not
Well,
only
because-
did this like push the limits to practical effects, but they really did push the limits of special effects as well. Like the
Yeah.
whole T-1000 being this digitally created
Yeah.
person, you know.
Where like we laugh at that now, like back then people were like, "Whoa, how'd they do that?"
Yeah.
Liquid metal, man.
It was yeah, it's so cool.
When he's like
this,
on the floor
in this documentary that I told you that I watched, like watching them like nowadays they put ping pong balls in a like pajama suit on a person
Yeah.
and then they can make this crazy character, you know. Watching this documentary, they had to sit down the actor who played the T-1000 and draw a grid on his face, on his body, you know, and they were doing like facial scans. Like it's this giant computer that's just circling around his body, and they'd be like, okay, now do a smile. And then it would circle around his body, and they're like, okay, now do a frowny face. And it would circle around his body, you know, and he had to just like completely stay still so they could get these reactions, these faces. And then they put him out on the streets with just like the same thing, a grid suit on, and had him do these walks so they could copy his walks in the computers. So they're like, they were really pushing what we could do with special effects with this movie.
Gosh, it always just is so crazy to me that they're able to do that, because not even just that they did that. I mean, you could see the type of computers that they were using back then, like in these movies, right? With like the huge like monitor on the desktop that was like one of those like old like brick ones. It's just like super ginormous, and a lot of
The
the
ones that can,
times
like,
they've got like the
block a
black and
bullet.
green code and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, block a bullet.
They're thick.
Sorry.
So this movie was starring Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. I gotta stop there for a second. You guys on my team with Linda Hamilton here now?
Oh yeah.
You
I like
understand my love for Linda Hamilton now?
Well, how do you mean love, Vince?
Are you talking like you think she's a cute older lady again, or are you talking like that she portrays Sarah Connor the way Sarah Connor deserves to be portrayed, or that she's kind of a babe when she was younger?
All of the above. Linda Hamilton, she's not my old lady crush. That's saved for Jamie Lee.
Yep.
But, you know, Linda Hamilton, like I said, I just want to have her as like my grandma or like my older mother who can tell me stories of being on the set of Terminator. She just seems like a really cool person to hang out with. And young Linda Hamilton is a babe.
So
Am I
T2
wrong?
T2 Linda Hamilton is like pretty badass, and like if I like saw her doing some of the stuff she would, I'm sure I would have been like, whoa, like, that's pretty cool. But
Do you see how jacked she got for
Dude.
this movie?
the
Yeah, she was
bangs,
pretty
man.
yoked when she was like,
I can't.
It's
Yeah, when she
yeah.
was doing, she could do more pull-ups than I can. So like, I guess I can't say anything.
it's hard to
but-
beat zero. I'm sorry.
Zing.
I'm sorry.
Taking shots. All right, I'll move on from Linda Hamilton. So also starring, I guess co-starring, you could say, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just kidding. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the titular role as the Terminator returns. They introduced Edward Furlong as John Connor, young John Connor. Robert Patrick is playing the T-1000, and Joe Morton plays Miles Dyson.
Is Miles Dyson the guy, the coding guy?
Yep, he's the guy who created Skynet, pretty much.
Oh right.
Dang him.
He was a
Casting
good guy.
considerations. The Terminator. I got some good ones for you.
Oh, I hope it's the guy from Sweden who knocked out Sylvester Stallone.
Who knocked out Sylvester
From
Stallone?
Sweden or from Russia?
He's Russian in the thing, but he's Swedish.
Oh crap. Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren.
No,
Oh.
but
That'd have been sweet.
But some of the documentaries that I listened to, they're like, oh yeah, for the T-1000, they got Robert Patrick instead of a Dolph Lundgren type, you know. So like they brought him up during it, but no, he wasn't considered.
Where he wasn't as big and jacked, just like kind of like a
They wanted the T-1000 to be more of a
like an agile beast.
someone who could like fit into a crowd, you know.
Yeah.
So the original Terminator, they actually they considered Arnold Schwarzenegger to actually play Kyle Reese in the first movie. But James Cameron did not like that idea because in the first Terminator movie, Kyle Reese delivers a lot of dialogue and explanation about what's going on.
Okay.
And James Cameron is like, with that accent, Arnold is not going to be able to do this, you know? And so he has this really fun story you can find on YouTube where he's like, I went out to dinner with Arnold and some of the other guys with the intention of talking them out of having Arnold in this movie. And he sat down with them and he was such a nice guy and they got along so well. And he started like rethinking it. He's like, he could actually make a good Terminator, not a Kyle Reese. And Arnold at the time was a action hero, you know, he wasn't a bad guy. And so he wasn't sure if like Arnold would go for it, but Arnold was so into the script that when James Cameron called his agent and offered it to him, the agent turned him down, said he wouldn't do it. And then when Arnold found out that he turned him down, he fired his agent, called up James Cameron, told him he's going to do it, and then rehired his agent and told him that's a learning lesson for you.
Well, because also Arnold has obviously gotten better over the years, but then like back when they made the first Terminator, he still had like a super strong accent. Because I don't know how many it could be a few years before, he was in that one movie that Cade told us about, like something in New York,
Conan in New York or something,
like Hercules in New York or something like that. And his accent was so bad that he was this big action hero, like running through New York. He always had his shirt off, but it was so bad that they had to like dub over him. And it's so weird because you've got the voice is obviously just like some skinny like white dude like me or something like that that's voicing over like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so just watching it, you're just like, what is going on? And it was so bad even because it was pretty low budget and just an awful film.
But it's really cool that they cast Arnold in this role because it's because of his accent that made some of these catchphrases work so well. You know, like the "I'll be back." You know, that wouldn't have worked like if some other guy just was like, "I'll be back."
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Casey, there's a new catchphrase. It's gonna go huge.
Ditto. I'll be back.
So anyway, that was for Kyle Reese. They originally were considering Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 1. In Terminator 2, now tell me if you guys think either of these would work. The production company, the casting director, wanted O.J. Simpson, and James Cameron's first choice was Mel Gibson. If you had to choose one, who would it be?
Mel Gibson, any day. You know, Mel.
You don't think OJ would make a good Terminator?
Unless the Terminator was behind bars. I don't know. No.
I mean, maybe that was what would make him so good,
Was it
is
not?
because he actually has the crazy behind his eyes.
Like to be the T-800?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they not already planning on Arnold to redo it, or were they thinking of like
So
just
this
bringing
was-
back a different
This
one?
was for Terminator 1, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
this is before
T2.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I don't know why I thought you would say
Those
No,
were
that's
the
fine.
casting considerations.
when they were casting for the original.
I would have done Mel Gibson in a heartbeat because around that time, Mel Gibson was every lady's heartthrob, for one. Two, he has that look where that guy's creepy. Have you ever seen like pictures where he's like opening his eyes? He's like, ah! And you're like, I can feel that, ah, right now. And so, yeah.
And he kind of fits that whole, like the T-800, the whole idea is it's an infiltrating unit, you know?
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson kind of fits that everyday guy more than the hulking mass that is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No way. I think Arnold fits right in. He fits in at least 2 taxis in one ride.
For real. Okay, so casting considerations for the T-1000. Their original idea was to bring Michael Biehn back, the guy who played Kyle Reese in the original, and swapping the roles of Arnold and Michael Biehn. And so Michael Biehn would be the Terminator and Arnold would be the T-1000.
Oh.
But they deemed that too confusing for the audience.
That would be pretty
Which-
confusing.
Probably would have been, right? Other considerations. Ready to get your mind blown again?
Yeah.
Blackie Lawless from the metal band Wasp, who I'd never heard of before, and Billy Idol.
No.
Billy Idol would have got the role, but he got in a motorcycle accident right before and could not perform.
No. I mean,
He would have came in and had a rebel yell, yo.
sorry.
Why did I say yo?
I like this like Robert Patrick guy. Like he was good, but can you imagine like seeing Billy Idol doing this? That would have been great. Oh, now I'm like kind of sad. Like I'm sure Vince that you love this movie so much, and you're like nothing could make this movie better. That would make this movie better if Billy Idol was the T-1000.
Casey, Billy Idol? Yes, no?
I'm indifferent. I'll be honest with you. Like, yeah, actually, my indifference is gone. Yeah, I wish he would have been there, but I really love Robert Patrick, to be honest with you. I think he fits it so well. And I couldn't admit, it would be a completely different film.
It would.
Obviously, but
Yeah.
I think it's good the way it came out.
Yeah, agreed. So one more casting consideration for Miles Dyson. And the only reason I added him in here is because it's such a famous person that they offered the role to.
A young Samuel L. Jackson?
Nope, but he's in a lot of movies too. Just as famous, I'd say.
Morgan Freeman?
Jamie Foxx.
Miles Dyson would have been played by Denzel Washington.
Whoa,
Yes!
that would have been sweet too.
Right?
I don't even know who this guy is, this Joe Morton guy. I don't know if he's in anything else that I would know.
He came back, coincidence maybe, in the new Justice League movie as the father of Cyborg.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's kind of funny.
I know, right? He's always creating these
You're
like
like,
robotic tech. But Denzel Washington turned the role down, saying that all he does is look scared and sweat.
Well,
So he
that's
doesn't
kind
wanna
of
do
true
it.
though. Like, not gonna lie, like
Yeah, he
I
doesn't do
can't
much.
really see like Denzel Washington at that one part right before the guy like blows up the building. Like, I don't know if I could see like Denzel Washington like,
No.
legit doing that. But also, I didn't really like this guy that much. Sorry.
Stop talking bad about my favorite movie.
I'm not
just
talking
kidding.
bad about the movie. I was saying I didn't like that guy.
I'm just
that
kidding.
much.
I'm just kidding. My wife was watching that part with us, and she kept leaning over to me like, "This guy's not very good at dying, like acting. He's no Michael Bean, or not Michael Bean. Ned Stark, whatever his name is. I can't.
Sean Bean,
Sean
Thank
Bean.
you.
who's died in like 500 movies.
Goodness gracious. If you've got
Professional
Sean
dyer.
Bean in a movie and he doesn't die, movie's not real. It's some fake
He didn't
news.
die in the National Treasure,
Boo.
but he did go to prison for a very long time.
his little Frenchman died because he like fell down the well, but he should have died.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're talking about National Treasure. We should be talking about Terminator.
Yeah. Where would you guys like to start?
I like to start talking about what was probably the most surprising thing of the movie for me, because we always talk about how big of an action film this was. I want to talk a little bit about Sarah Connor and her mental health and like how interesting of an aspect that is, because obviously we start and she's getting jacked in this like mental asylum, right? This mental hospital where we're like, oh, she doesn't belong here, because she's telling these things that everyone's like, oh yeah, this lady's crazy, that are the truth. And we know that she's like sane and she's lucid and stuff, right? But then also as we go throughout the movie and we see some of the stuff that happens with how damaged she is with seeing like Judgment Day, like the world getting blown up.
So she never actually saw it, but she does have these
Dreams, right,
nightmares.
sorry.
Yeah.
So these dreams that she has about it and everything like that makes you like consider. Obviously, I don't think that she would belong like in a mental hospital, but it makes you question like her sanity as well a little bit, and how healthy she actually is mentally, because it puts you in that hard situation where you're like, she doesn't belong here, but then you see a lot of stuff and you're like, but does she though?
So talking about the biggest surprises, we talked about Arnold coming back as the good guy. Like, I can only imagine this being such a huge surprise for moviegoers, because Sarah Connor in Terminator 1 is the everyday girl. She's working a waitress job. She's super nice. She's really pretty. She's not a military leader at all. She's just a regular girl living her life, and appears a little, I don't want to say weak, but just like not what she is in T2, you know, just normal.
Right.
And then this movie starts, and the first glimpse of you get of her is from behind, just doing these pull-ups, and she's just freaking jacked. Like her arms are just like muscle, solid muscle, you know, and she's just like thin, and she just is going at it. And you turn around and you see her, and it's just like, what is going on? Like, how did this happen? Terminator 1 ended on such a like hopeful note, you know, of like, we know what the future holds. We have this chance. And all of a sudden she's in a mental institution. And then you start, and this is why I agree with you, Casey. Like, this is in a way kind of the Fast and the Furious movie for its time because of these big action moments. But these are so much smarter. At least Terminator 2 is so much smarter than a Fast and Furious movie.
I'll argue that.
Because my argument is, like, really, someone has this life-altering moment where a crazy person, essentially, you know, shows up, tells you your future son is going to be the leader of a resistance that will fight cyborg robots and save the world, save 3 billion people. Like, if she hadn't seen these robots, I mean, everyone else who hasn't seen these robots, she's running around telling people that? She's crazy, you know? You're not going to believe that. And it's like, it brings up this idea of what would happen to a person who just legitimately believes these things, you know? And the reason she's in there is she tried to blow up a computer factory or something like that. So she's rightfully in there because all they see is this lady that blew up a building and then is claiming that, you know, she's the future leader of the world, or her son's going to be the future leader of the world. There's a reason she's in there. But it brings up this really cool idea of just like, how would this affect someone? Even if it's real, like she knows it's real. How would it affect her personal life? And that's what she's doing. Go ahead. She's jumping around, you know, country. She's spent most of her time in Guatemala, like hooking up with these guerrilla war guys, you know, learning how to fight, learning how to shoot a gun, learning strategy. And she's kind of just disconnected from the world. And you find out later on, even after she gets out of the like mental institution, that she's even like so disconnected with what she's doing that she kind of is disconnected from her son as well. You know, she's like, you're the most important thing. You need to protect yourself. And in this moment where John kind of needs a father figure or a mother figure, she's just not that. She's a protector herself, and he's just left there to kind of figure out this stuff on her own, you know? I don't know. It's a really cool idea that I just don't feel like a lot of movies kind of, especially action movies, especially some of these later Terminators, will ever focus on.
Yeah. Well, the thing is here is look at the way you treat people who are saying crazy things on the side of the road. You avoid them. You question them. And you say, doesn't matter what they're saying, they're crazy. And that's what most people do. Like, if you don't, you're a saint. But the reality of it is can you imagine, and this is going off of you, Vince, really, what took for them to like capture her, take her son away from her and put her in the thing? This lady has got to have been so skilled. This is a backstory and kind of a little tangent or arm of the story that we don't really hear about. And so, yeah, these other films are never going to dive that deep into the mental health issue that was this and the capture and the release, you know, that we see in this film. But what it's going to do is it's a good highlighter of the way that people take signs and visions, I don't know what you want to call it, and go forward with it. So, yeah, this is crazy. And it's really cool that even though she was captured in there and she was like the creepy dude who licks her face at one point, like
messed up.
Like, it's so gross, but like all of these things that add up to an experience, and she walks out of it just as sane and stronger and more prepared to move forward and to help John become the person he needs to be. So that is cool. Mm-hmm. That is very, very cool. I don't know. That's kind of my 2 bits.
She still has some stuff to learn, though. Because like I said, she's so disconnected from John and kind of disconnected from life in general that, like, she's willing to do whatever it takes to stop this event and kill. I mean, as we see later in the movie, you know, like with Miles Dyson, like, she's willing to kill essentially an innocent person. I mean, he's guilty in a way, but he doesn't know what he's doing. And the first thought that comes to her head is, I'm going to kill this dude. It's not like, I'm going to try to convince him otherwise. It's not.
She just bails on them, too, in the freaking desert with this random family. And John is, Mom. And she just, gone. She's like, doesn't care because she's so focused on things. So, yeah, she is very disconnected because she has a single purpose, which is to stop this. But
Stop the Judgment Day.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because you think about it, and she is, in her mind, she's doing it all for her son, right? She's like trying to protect him and make sure that he's not hurt and everything like that. But at the same time, you're also thinking like it's kind of a little selfish because, yes, she is doing this to protect her son and like save the future in a way, but at the same time, she's hurting her son because he feels like she's leaving her behind again, or she's leaving him behind again, and also hurting innocent people, which is also not good. I mean, especially if they had shown up a little bit sooner, or even if they didn't show up a little bit sooner, if she had actually killed him, which lucky for him, his daughter came in the room right at the right moment, so he leaned down and didn't die. I mean, just thinking about that is, and so anyways, so if that had happened and he had died, and then Arnold and T-800 and John Connor showed up like a little bit later, and they showed up and saw that his mom killed someone, like, that's not healthy either. So,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Poor Sarah. And then it affects John perfectly. I mean, you got this little kid. He's like 10 years old. He's grows up in Guatemala, jumping around, with all these military guys.
So skilled. He's been taught so many cool skills. That's all I want to say.
I know he's a freaking computer hacker.
Yeah.
All right, I was gonna save this for later, but I have a reasons I like John Connor. I liked John Connor when I was a kid list. You guys want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Number one, this is like what 12-year-old me. Okay. Number one, this kid's awesome because he has cool hair. He rides a motorcycle everywhere he goes. He hangs out in an arcade all day. He knows how to hack computers and get money. And he doesn't listen to anybody. He lives by his own rules. He doesn't listen to his foster parents. He's like, whatever. So little 12-year-old me is like, this kid is the coolest. This kid is so awesome. I want to be this kid. All right, now I got another list.
Okay.
Stuff you like about him now.
No, this is the reasons why I hate John Connor as an adult.
Oh.
You want to hear what the reasons I hate John Connor as an adult are?
They're the exact same.
1, he has a stupid haircut. 2, he recklessly rides a motorcycle. 3, he hangs out in an arcade all day doing nothing. 4, he knows how to hack computers. And what does he do? He steals from people. And 5, he doesn't listen to his parents who just want the best for him.
Old man Vince in the house.
You got old man V up in here.
It's after 20 years, I realized that this kid's kind of a little puke.
You're like, you know what? He's kind of the worst.
I mean, even in the moment where he realizes that the T-800 is there to help him and save him, and it has to listen to everything he has to do, or everything that he says, what's the first thing he does?
Lift your leg up.
Just tells him to stand on one foot. And then the guys come over to help him after he screams for help, These two guys, these nice guys come over to help him. And what does he do? Tells him to take a hike, bozo. And when they don't do it, he tells the Terminator to beat him up, like,
Take a hike, bozo.
This kid was so affected by his poor relationship with his mother, this lifestyle of being dragged across the world to learn these things about being this great, as he says it, great military leader, that he just doesn't know how to be a good member of society. And it's so sad to me that he had to live this life. I mean, he'd never had a mother. Every time he got close to what could essentially be a father figure, his mom would tell him about his destiny, and that father figure would leave. He says that in the movie. And then his mother blows up a computer factory and gets sent to prison or to an insane asylum, and then everyone starts to tell him that everything that he's been told for his entire life is a bunch of crap. It's all made up. It's all in her head. What is he supposed to do with that?
Well, yeah, because he, probably, obviously, since it's his mom, believed it for forever, and then since his mom goes to an insane asylum and people are telling him it's crazy, he's like, crap, like, it is crazy, and I believe this for a long time. So not only am I feeling stupid because I believed this stuff for a long time, it was my own mom who was telling me all of this stuff. And he just built such a resentment towards her that while he obviously still loves her because he keeps a picture of her in his wallet, he just resents her so much that when his friend like pulls out the picture and he's like, "Who's this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's my mom." And he's just like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it's just something like she's a dick or something like that.
This is the kid's like, "Your mom is so cool." He's like, "Yeah, she sucks.
She's psycho or something like
She's
that.
psycho."
Yeah, something like that. And so, it just damaged him. But then can you imagine like how much of a relief it would have been to, meet Arnold and then see, hey, like, oh crap, like what she's saying is real,
Well, doesn't he say, "You're a Terminator," right? Like that's kind of how he does it. He has this moment of like coming to reality and coming to grips with, okay, my mom's not as psycho as she seems.
It's like such a happy moment for him because it's not even just like, oh, this stuff is real, because he could probably freak out like, oh crap, that does mean I gotta like save the world or something. But he's just like so relieved because even though I'm sure he resented his mom for a long time, the reasons that he resented her are all of a sudden gone. And so that resentment can just fall away with it. And he's like, because the very first thing once he, finds out about that, he's like, yo, we got to go help my mom, like that's what we got to do, because he's sort of just lost that resentment that he felt towards her.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to my favorite part of the whole movie. I absolutely love the escape scene with Sarah Connor, where she finds out, that she's not going to be put into low security, and so she's just got to find a way to get out. And then the cops show up with photos of the T-800 back at the mall. Can you imagine her? Like, who's been prepping all this time, assuming that when this all happens, it's going to be the end of the world, and then seeing another Terminator, like, wandering the streets again. She's like, I gotta get the crap out of here. I gotta save my son. Like, all this, like, stuff that she's been ready for, preparing for, just, like, happens. And that first time that she sees the Terminator, when she's running down the hall, and the T-800 walks out and turns that corner with the shotgun, and she just freezes and slips, and you just have that like scream, that like no, because she's dealt with this before, and she knows what this thing can do, and she knows that she is stuck in this place. It's gotta be so terrifying.
He talked about Arnold with the shotgun. Let me just say that was one of my favorite like coolest things from the movie, when he would reload the shotgun by like spinning it in the circle and then shooting it, because not only was it like cool to look at and I loved it, it was like a throwback to me from when I would play Call of Duty, because there's this one gun called like the Argus 12 that like you do that like when you're reloading it, you're just like and so I was like, yo, that's so dope.
That's so cool.
Because he was like, when they were doing it in the chase, when they were leaving the mall and whatever, he was doing that to shoot at the guy in the T-1000 in the semi-truck. And I was like,
apparently
badass.
The making of that shooting that scene was really hard, because James Cameron is such a perfectionist that he wanted Arnold to be looking a specific way and act like doing a very specific thing, and to ride a bike and twist the gun and like do the shot that in that perfect way was really, really hard for him.
I bet.
Like he wanted him to, he had to like look at where the lock would be, and so he had a really hard time shooting that scene. But it's like,
it works.
That's what's so cool about James Cameron films, is like he's so picky about things, but it pays off in the end.
Yeah, it's like everyone hates him by the end, but then when it gets to the big screen, they're all like, all right, like
We got it.
everyone loves it.
And that I think was one of the cooler parts, to be honest with you. Like the sequence where he goes into the bar, gets the bike, like fights all those guys in there. Then they get him all stuff, and then the last guy comes out like, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot you. You're gonna eat lead or whatever."
So he says, I can't let you take the guy's wheels or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But the best line in that whole scene is, I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Exactly. And that was just like, sorry, I had to bring that up. Like the way he gets all of this, and like he just like rolls with it. He just like, I need it, gets it, gone.
Let me just say that I was like super scared for this movie, like because it starts with like you seeing like a ton of like ashes and stuff on fire, right? And then after that, and after it has the title, like the very first scene is that one that we're talking about. And out of like all the effects in the movie, this one is like the worst. When he appears, it literally just looks like they put like a purple circle on the screen and then faded it out, and he's there. And I was like, what just happened? That was so bad. I thought the whole movie was going to be like that. And I was just like, oh no, what have I let Vince talk me into?
I remember back in the day when iMovie introduced that lightning effect, and I was like, oh, we can do some cool stuff with this.
Oh man. But yeah, then he just like walks in. And that was like part of the parts where I was like, it was funnier than I thought it would be because you got all the guys just like, what the heck? And then all the girls were like, what the? But they're also like sneaking looks, and they're like, ooh.
So another little fun fact, that scene, what Arnold did in order to get those reactions from the people when he's walking around naked is he showed up on set. He didn't see anybody when he showed up. He showed up to shoot wearing bright purple like neon shorts. And so when he's walking through the scene and everybody's like looking down, they're like surprised because he's got these really bright shorts on. So it looks like they're like checking out his package, but really they're just like surprised at these stupid shorts he's wearing walking around.
The shorts of the Pink King.
What about you, Casey, man? What's your favorite part of the movie?
Okay, this is gonna sound really like Fast and the Furious-esque, right? I love the motorcycle monster. It's not a monster truck, semi-truck chase scene. Like
At the end?
Yeah, well, not the end when he's going with
the
kid.
motorcycle
At the beginning.
chase.
Yeah, at the
Sorry.
beginning when they're at the mall, they leave the arcade and he's like leaving. I love that part because like the kid's trying to get his motorcycle going. He sees the guy and the guy's like running, and I was like, yeah, P90, you could catch that for sure. But then like he keeps going, and then Arnold comes out on his bike. This guy steals the truck. He jumps it off the thing. It was like perfect. Like the way they shot that Freightliner was amazing. And that's where I think I get those Fast and the Furious feels,
Yeah.
right? Is right there. But also I think that scene was just kind of fun because they're just going through the Los Angeles River, just like through that canal system. And it's just awesome. It's just a good amount of fun. So
It's so cool. Like, and that's where you really get an idea of what the T-1000 is capable of.
everything. I
Like-
love it when he shoots him and he just like, and they like back up.
That first, but I want to get into this this canal scene because that's so cool. But you got to lead into that. The buildup of the T-1000 shows up. You think he's the good guy through the whole thing, and they have that standoff in the hallway where Arnold walks up and sees John Connor for the first time, drops the roses, and pulls out the shotgun.
Oh yes.
And then the cop comes around the corner.
Yes, that is so great. Like Arnold, like he's just like walking through the whole mall with this big thing of flowers, dressed in all this leather, right? And he's just walking, and then he like all these long stem roses falling on the ground, and the guy looks, and he just like duck out of the way.
And that's where you first see what this new Terminator is capable of.
And that was sick.
And it's so cool that it just like rips this hole into the T-1000 and just drops him, and it just heals right back up, and he stands up. And then you get to the canal scene, and they're chasing him around, and you have this giant crash. This diesel crashes in, and it just explodes, and the T-1000 just walks out, and it's just silver. And it's like, this is what...
It looks like the Oscar if it was a silver.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like.
It also looked like he was the Silver Surfer.
Surfer, that's what you said, right?
Yeah. Well, what's really cool about this too is you kind of get to see, and you're talking practical and special effects here, the future of technology. I'm pretty sure that there had to have been some part of this film that pushed filmmaking a little bit in this aspect.
Lots of it, yeah.
Because honestly, this would have been the biggest challenge for the tech that was available at that time. And like we've all seen films that have been like trying and they've failed, and I felt like this didn't fail to me. Like it made sense, and it was actually a quality product that was pushed out as far as the end of it. And so it made me really enjoy the aspect of the future of this is going to be epic. Like the design. And then that guy freaking, he can like have his arms like knives. He kills the parents. He can disguise himself as people. Yeah.
So what, like, I can imagine them pitching this
T-1000.
idea, like, what's scarier than a T-800? And then coming up with this T-1000.
So a machine that actually can mold and mesh, and it can consume people. It can like have swords come out of its body, and
can become anyone that it touches.
yes. Oh, it's so cool.
And so it like in Terminator 1, Arnold gets in that same type of situation where he is in a truck and it explodes, and he walks out, and all of the skin that's on top of his metal exoskeleton, it melts off, and so he's just a robot walking around after that. First thing that they do with this new Terminator, blow him up in the same way he almost dies in the first one, and he walks out unscathed. Like,
He's all good.
that's terrifying.
That was so cool. And I expected, like, after having not seen it in a long time and being so sleepy when I watched it, that I was like, he's gonna come out and he's gonna be like melting or dripping a little bit, and he was just like perfect. He was just like regenerating as he was going. It was cool.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick a favorite part of the movie, I would. Okay, so here's my runner-up: is Arnold Schwarzenegger standing in the window of the building with the minigun, just going crazy and shooting everyone without killing anyone.
That
So,
was
like,
cool.
that was pretty sweet. Just like him, like standing there and like going crazy while they got the building ready to explode, so they could, kill Skynet or whatever. That was pretty close, but I think that would have to go with the helicopter and the truck chase scene, because that was super crazy. Like everything they were doing with the helicopter, how real it all was, insane.
So
And
we
I loved it.
almost did not get that scene. That stunt apparently was so dangerous, flying that helicopter underneath the bridge, that the crew refused to film it. And so James Cameron said, "I will do it myself," and picked up the camera, and he's the one who shot those shots.
Holy cow!
Because
Really?
everyone else refused. They're like, "No, this is too much. I'm not gonna do it."
It's like filming like Free Solo, where you're just like, you're such like an ethical dilemma. Like, can we film this? Like, if something goes wrong, like we're just sitting here with a camera, Well, there you go. Well, thanks,
But
James
what a
Cameron.
cool-
And no one died.
What a cool chase scene, though. Running like that's a moment where you get it. Arnold jumping out of the truck and running up onto the diesel and just starting unloading the gun into the T-1000,
right at him.
and then flipping the thing around and rolling the truck. So cool. I don't know if I can choose a favorite. Like, I have favorite moments on my list, and there is
Like 10 of them?
almost 10 bullets on here. Like, there's just so many good action scenes,
Just
the bar
list 'em
scene,
off.
the bar scene, the chase through the river canal, Sarah in the mental institution, which we talked about all three of those already. John teaching the T-800 like how to be human.
You're just like going through the movie.
It
like,
really
this
is. It's
it.
like every piece of this movie just is so important to what makes this movie so good. You got the exposition, like you got this big action movie, but you have these really small moments with these three characters of, John teaching the T-800 how to high five. It reminds me of learning another language. What's the first thing that someone who is learning another language, when they ask you, like, what are some things that I can say? You immediately teach them, like, curse words and stuff, right?
But
He does the exact same thing with the T-800. He's just like, you can't say affirmative. You have to say, like, lay off, bozo, or whatever. I don't remember what he says. But he immediately does that. He teaches them how to say, like, hasta la vista, baby. Like, you have these really small moments. And then you have the cool moments like the T-800 cutting the skin off of his hand and showing the Dysons, like, the robot hand there, and explaining to them that, Miles, that, like, you are the reason that the world ends. And watching him, I mean, Sarah says it in her monologue, like, he took it pretty well, and he's just, like, staring there like, I think I'm gonna be sick, They have these really cool, smart moments of, like, what would someone's reaction be? The shootout with the minigun, they almost didn't use that minigun. They had it written as a different gun, but they decided to use that minigun because it's the same minigun that they used in Predator, which Arnold Schwarzenegger was in.
yeah,
Um,
I love Predator, by the way.
One of the coolest practical effects, or special effects, whatever, in my opinion, is watching the T-1000 freeze from the nitroglycerin and then Arnold shooting it and watching it explode in that slow motion.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking dope.
So cool. And then I got two more that I really want to focus on because they're so good. Sarah, when they're having this final moment, standing up against this robot, this T-1000, and she's got this shotgun, and she's shooting him, and every time she shoots him, the T-1000 gets knocked back a little bit further, and she's having this moment of just like, I'm standing up to him, I'm putting an end to this, and she's shooting him, and he's getting closer and closer to falling off into the lava, and she takes that one reload, and the gun clicks. And you just see this, you just have this like letdown, like, oh, she could have had it, It's just like this big moment for her, and there's one bullet, one shell that she dropped earlier in the movie that if she just wouldn't have dropped that shell, she would have beat him right there. And you have this moment of, oh crap, what are you gonna do? And And of course, Arnold shows up and blows the heck out of the
And then
dude.
one-armed Arnold shows up,
Yeah.
representing the one-armed people of this world. If you're out there, I mean, I don't know anyone with one arm, but
Didn't you say last day in the movie, you're like, look, representation?
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
said-
had to that was one of the times I had to wake up Casey. I was like, look, Casey, you're represented.
I was pretty sure I was asleep through most of this scene, actually. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, did I watch this? I'm sorry.
And then one of my favorite parts, that's probably the corniest part in the entire movie, that Josh is like, when it happened, he's like, that's where that gif is from.
Yeah.
Is when Arnold finally is like, gets to that moment where he's learned like why humanity is important, why humanity should survive, and he gets this understanding. This cyborg that's meant to kill people has learned the value in human life and decides to sacrifice himself so that Skynet can no longer exist. Gets on the hook, and they slowly lower him into the lava. And what does he do? He gives John a thumbs up as he melts into the lava.
I don't even know how, because his freaking head was already in there. The chip had to be gone, but he's just like, oh.
And then you have the perfect score. Da-na-na-na-na-na. You're just like wiping away tears, like, thank you, T-800. You saved us all.
Oh, man. It's true. It's true. What a funny thing.
And there it is.
I just love this movie so much. And I just have to say thank you guys for allowing me to do this episode.
No, like I said, it was, even though I am not as passionate about this movie as Vince was, I am definitely happy I watched it. It was a very good movie.
It was a good movie. I'm not sad we watched it and talked about it.
7 out of 10.
Whoa.
8 out of 10. Just because of Vince's face.
I'm going to give it a 6.6.
Excuse me?
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
See, I think I'll probably
Wow,
just
you're
average
pretty
mine to
low,
like
huh?
7.5. 7.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10.
Wow, that is really low.
You just keep going down.
3 out of 10. 1 out of 10. No,
Negatives.
I give it like a 6.6. Like, it's not quite a 7 for me. It was good, enjoyable, fun, but it's just for me. What else?
There is one nitpick that I have.
Ready.
In otherwise a perfect movie. And I know I've talked a lot this episode and I keep on going.
Well,
So
that's the
I'll try
whole
to-
point.
I'll try to keep this short, right? There is a deleted scene that they filmed after they escape from the mental institution, and they're when they're pulling bullets out of Arnold's back.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually extended in the special edition, which I do not have. That it wasn't in the original cut, but they basically what they do is Arnold tells them about Skynet, like how he works. Skynet, when they send these Terminators back in time, there's a switch on their microchip that keeps them from thinking too much. Basically, Skynet doesn't want them to have their own thoughts.
To become like the people in Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. And so Arnold in this extended scene is explaining that to them. Like, there's this switch in my brain that if you guys want, you can pop it out. You can flip that switch off, and then the way that I learn is very much like Skynet, and I'm able to think for myself instead of do everything that Skynet does. More or less, that's what it says in a very short version of that, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this whole scene where they cut open a part of Arnold's head and they reach down into his brain and they pull out the microchip. And while they have the microchip out, Sarah sees this as her only chance to kill the Terminator, and so she wants to take it, and John has to like convince her not to do it.
Oh, nice.
And it's really cool, and it's a really cool moment for Sarah, coming to terms with this Terminator, and it's really cool for the lore and understanding like what these Terminators' purpose is and how they work apart from Skynet, which kind of I think can kind of help in the sequels. There's a lot of justifying you have to do in the sequels, including the new one. Hopefully we'll talk about that later. But I just thought it was a really cool scene, and I think it really helps in building this lore that I love so much.
So your nitpick is that there wasn't enough in the movie.
Yeah.
I was waiting. I was really surprised. I was like, wow, Vince has a nitpick about this movie.
This doesn't sound like a nitpick to me. It sounds like
My nitpick is they shouldn't have taken anything out.
My nitpick is that they needed more Terminator.
So anyway, final thoughts. The whole point of this movie is like life is important. Humanity is important. Don't take a life no matter what. There's got to be, figure out another way. Don't try to do what Sarah Connor did and try to kill Miles Dyson, like, immediately. Even if a cyborg can learn the importance of humanity, you know, the importance of human life, then anybody can learn the importance of human life. What a masterpiece. 10 out of 10.
Okay. 10 out of 10 for Vince, 6.6 for me, and 7.5 for Josh.
Anyway, we'll be continuing with part 2 of our Terminator 2 talk next.
I think we should watch the new Terminator movie that just came out. We should talk about it. It's new. It's got some cool new updated text so we can compare the differences. And I'm curious about the storyline, how it holds up. Because you have a friend and we have a friend who gave it...
Everyone
all
knows
know
Michael
him.
on here a ton.
Yeah, Michael. Hello, Michael.
We miss you.
He gave it a 1, and you gave it what?
I gave it a 4. I really, really had fun with it.
Out of 5. Just so you know.
And yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, because we're on this Letterboxd app, me and Michael, and so we can kind of see what each other are watching. And I saw the movie and I had a lot of fun with it. Like, yes, there are some things that I didn't like they did, but overall I really enjoyed it. And so I had a conversation with Michael and I was like, you should give it a chance. You know, I thought it was really good. And he's like, he had no intention of seeing it. And I woke up one morning and I popped open the Letterboxd app and he had given it a 1 star. I didn't even know he was going to see it. And he gave it a 1 star. And I texted him, I'm like, a 1 star? Are you kidding me? And all he had to say was, 4 stars? The question mark and exclamation mark. So we have very different opinions on it, and I really am excited to see what you guys have to say about it, because it is very much a more modern version of Terminator.
Yeah.
And it moves fast, and there's big explosions, and I don't know. I'd like to see what you guys think.
Like Halloween 2018 versus Halloween 1978.
Except for not as good.
I don't know. We'll talk about it, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Well, anything else before we close out tonight?
Just thanks for listening in, guys. We really appreciate it. Sorry we've been gone for a little while, but we're super happy to be back and providing you guys this content that hopefully you enjoy. Make sure to check us out on social media. We'll be doing a lot of stuff there. Like we mentioned earlier in the episode, we'll be throwing out stuff about the best sequels of all time. So be looking for that. And also just we're having a lot of fun over there. So check us out on Twitter at Pause Rewind PLA and on Instagram at Pause Rewind Play Podcast.
And that's all, folks. Thank you for tuning in to the Pause Rewind Play Podcast. We're Casey, Vince, and Josh, and we're so grateful for your support, patronage, and listening. And we will catch you next time when we talk about the new Terminator film.
Dark Fate.
Dark Fate. I was gonna call it something wrong just to see what you'd say. But yeah, Terminator Dark
Rise
Fate
of the
next
Machines.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Na, 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 na.